Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, it looks like the future's going to be orange. I've just done my first thinning of the carrot bed. A little bit overdue, it has to be said, but they don't look too bad at all. A nice size really, nice and clean. A few tiddlers as well, but they'll all get eaten. Probably 2 or 3 pounds worth of carrots. The very first of the season. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Thursday today and I came down bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with plans of doing all sorts on the allotment, but the weather forecast has let us down. It looked like it was going to be a sunny afternoon and they promised sun for tomorrow as well on Friday, but that's just not how it's been. It's rained all day, it's been showery. You've gone outside and then within a few minutes the heavens have opened up and it's just not been possible to do very much at all. So I've potted around in the greenhouses. I've done a little bit of sowing, not really very much to show you. I've sown the spring cabbage for next year. Offanum 2 is the variety that I've sown. Perfect time to do it, now and over the next month. Tidied up the long greenhouse on the 4th plot as well, the 16 by 8 greenhouse. I've removed, after quite a long time and after about 120 cucumbers, I've removed the mini cucumbers. There are still a couple of cucumbers in there, and I planted 2 new mini cucumbers as well. The same variety, Piccolino. So I'll take you in there now and you can have a look. We'll have a brief glimpse of the tomatoes as well. Okay, so I'll meet you over there. And as you can see, I've removed the original 4 Piccolino mini cucumber plants. They did really well, but I did have some seed left, so I sowed another 2 and they've produced 2 healthy plants as well. 1 to either side. I've popped an aubergine in the middle, that's nicely in flower, and then down to the right of me here on the floor I removed the 2 standard cucumbers. One was a Burr Plus and one was a Fem Spot, and I've got 3 peppers there and they're starting to put on some peppers now. And then just to the left of me we've got 2 rather anemic looking Fem Spot plants, but they've still got quite a few cucumbers on. They're not as green. Obviously the compost has been depleted of nitrogen, but we're still growing cucumbers and they'll be okay to eat. We've got, if we can see, we've got 1 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 10. Yeah, so we've got 10 cucumbers. And as you can see, as you get towards the back end, they take on a rather funny shape. It's almost as if they've not quite filled out, rather like a balloon that's going down. But they still taste okay. So another 10 there, so we'll have had about 130. And then I dare say we'll get another 20 or 30 off these. Now if I turn around we can take a look at the tomatoes, and as you can see we've got some splashes of red at last. And the cherries that you can see here, well, these are the Zakura cherry, and these are the ones, if you remember, that I said the trusses will all turn red and you'll be able to leave the trusses on until every tomato on that truss is red, and then you'll be able to take it off. They store well, keep well, taste nice. Well, they're doing rather well. Had the weather been better and had we had maybe a week's more sun over this last couple of weeks, we might have had 1 or 2 full trusses of red tomatoes. But I've not taken any off these yet because I want to leave them so I can show you, how nice they look when you harvest a full truss. I do have the same varieties in the other 2 greenhouses, and I've been taking them off those as they've ripened, as they've become red. Then if we just look to the right, you can see that with an abundance of beefsteak. I'll just move to the other end of the greenhouse. We'll get down low and then we can see just how we're faring. And as you can see, I'll put my hand at the side of each plant so you can see how they're getting on. This is a pink brandywine, and there are about 8 really nice tomatoes on this one. There's one that's huge actually, just there. That's like a fused one. We've got the standard Harbinger, which is like a Shirley type, and that's just starting to colour up. Shoulders are still green, but it's turning orange. It will go a deep red. Another truss just here, and then if we move over, we've got a Brandy Boy, and we've got a huge one here at the top. Put my hand on top, you can see just how big that is. That's going to be close to 1 kilogram as well. 2 trusses on this one, I think. Yeah. No, that's just 1 truss. The next one is a German Johnson, and we've got some beautiful tomatoes on this one as well. About 7 of a decent size that are going to be approaching £1 pound in weight. And then if we move along, one of my favourites, and one that seems to have appealed to quite a few people that viewed the tomato update that I did a few updates back, the Paul Robeson. This is lovely. Still got its really deep characteristic green shoulders, and it will retain a little bit of green on the shoulder even when it turns like a purpley brown. It's got 2 trusses. The second truss is actually producing really nice tomatoes as well, and it's also got a 3rd truss, so it's a steady cropper is this one. Whereas some of the others, like the pink brandywine, this is the one that's really huge. You really need an aerial view of this one, or a 3D view, because it's like 2 1.5 pound tomatoes together. I think that's going to be over 1 kilo now, and you can just see that there's a slight blush of colour here. It's turning an orangey yellow, so that's the first sign of that tomato ripening. It's not reached, I don't think, a mature green stage yet. It might have, but I don't think it'll be too long. Within the next week or so that might be ripe. There's a second truss on this one as well, but all the energy has gone into these first couple of trusses, so there's not really very much higher up the plant, but still a fabulous couple of trusses. And then moving on, another Brandy Boy, again stunning tomatoes. 2 trusses on this one as well. 3 tomatoes on the first truss and 3 on the second truss, just there. And then finally a Hillbilly tomato, and this is the one that turns yellow and orange, and we've got 2 trusses on this one as well, and there's a little bit of a blush on the base of that as well. So again, some fabulous tomatoes. I think this might possibly be the best year that I've had down on the allotment for beefsteak tomatoes. And there's one variety that I forgot to show you last time, and this is, if I just focus, yeah, you can see now, this is a black pear, very very similar to the Japanese black tree filler. And if I put my hand in at the back, these are bigger than they seem. I don't know if you can see that. They're really big. They are like a small pear. And there are 2 or 3 trusses on that one as well. So the sun gold have just been cropping steadily, and I've been taking a shallow punnet each day, and they don't taste too bad. They're quite sweet, but the skins are quite thick, and that's because of the hot weather that we had earlier in the season. And this is the Sakura plant by the door, and as you can see, it's half ripened. About 16 tomatoes on this one, and this may well be the very first full truss that we harvest. So I'm looking forward to this one. Anyway, that's enough of the greenhouse. I don't think we're going to be able to look at the onions today, but we may get round to that tomorrow. Catch you later. Morning everyone. Friday today. Unfortunately it's still wet, the ground, but I thought I'd show you the onions anyway, because this may be the last time we get to look at them before they're lifted. From this vantage point you can see that the shallots, these are the Longo variety, and the Caravel pink onions are all flat now. They're all turning over. There might be maybe 20% of the Caravel pinks that have still to fall over, but the skins, their outer skins, are nicely bronzed and they're clearly ready to be lifted. And I'll weigh one or two of the onions when I do lift them, but I'm pretty confident that the vast majority of these onions will be in excess of £1 in weight. Some may well be about £1.5. This one is a case in point. I think this probably is about £1.5, and lots of people have ordered these online, having seen how well they performed for me in the last couple of years. I think this might be my 3rd or 4th year of growing them, and they've never disappointed. Always large, always have this beautiful purpley pink blush to the outer skins, and always heavy yielding. And if I stand up you can see that all of the onions are a really good size. And we didn't get that many sets in the bag this year. There might be maybe 40 onions. Next year I think I will be ordering 2, because they really are a nice onion. They store exceptionally well. They're also really sweet as well, and quite mild. If onions don't agree with you, some of the hotter ones, well, these are perfect. If we move along, you can see that the red fen, the red onions, I think we've got 3 rows of those in the middle. These are still all upright. I think these have still got a little bit more growing to do. But if we move across the early fen and the rumba, you can see that these are starting to fall over as well, and 1 or 2 have split. They've clearly been absorbing too much moisture over this last couple of weeks, and it's imperative really that we get these up on a hot day, that they have a day or so to dry out, and then they can be popped in to the barn over there. It's well aired in there, and upside down they normally dry off quite well, so that the necks can drain and the basal plate with the roots can breathe, so the onions don't sweat. The last thing you want is to be taking your onions up after a week or 10 days of rain, because you risk getting neck rot then with your onions. The necks never really dry out, so we want to avoid that. But it's a really nice time of the year. People often say when they're about to harvest the vegetables that it's a pity to take them up because they look so beautiful, and these certainly do. And this bed, as I've mentioned in previous updates, had about 8 to 10 inch of well-rotten manure on it. That manure overwintered on the surface of the soil, and then it was dug in prior to planting. And another good year for onions. These last 3 years in fact have all been good, but the weather's definitely helped this year. 2018 was really hot, and that was a great season, but we had to do a lot of watering, but not this last couple of months, because as you can see the onions have filled up really nicely. Well, it's almost time to head off home for lunch, but I noticed that quite a few of the peas are ready to be picked. This is the variety Jaguar, and I've done 3 flat bottom drills of these. The first drill was finished a week or so ago, but the second and third are still cropping nicely. And the key really, the trick is to keep picking them. Because as you can see with the rain, these are sat quite low to the ground now, and they do tend to get a little bit dirty, even when they're supported by short canes. So if we just take a look at the pea inside, we'll see what they look like. Really, really nice. 7 peas in that one, and I'm going to try them now. And these are super sweet. They're really, really sweet. They could grow a little bit more, but they tend to be sweeter when they're this size, and so this is the size that I'm going to pick them. So we'll just take enough for a meal, and then we'll revisit the peas again, maybe in a few days. And there we are, a few peas picked, super sweet. 4 of us for tea tonight. There might not be enough for a portion of peas for all of us, but if we mix them in with the carrots, they'll be all the better for it, I think. And they're lovely and fresh, really nice healthy colour, nice and fat peas, and super sweet. Anyway, I think that's about it for this update. It's still a little bit grim out, and I don't think I'm going to make much progress on the ground. It's still far too wet. So just remains for me to thank you again for watching. Thank you if you've subscribed recently, and please feel free to comment, because I always enjoy having a chat with people. Okay, well, thanks again. Have a great week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. All the best.